Hello everybody and welcome. If you clicked on this video, congratulations. It means you already know that communication can be tricky. Often, we are even afraid to start a dialogue with someone because we feel that we may well get angry or conversely, even a little frightened. Fortunately, non-violent assertive communication can be learned. I shared with you here a super condensed synopsis of what you can practice in my workshops. At the end of the video, you'll find information to attend group workshops with role-playing games near you or remote practice sessions by video conference. Right, come on, let's get started and hold on tight because there are no less than 10 behaviors for non-violent assertive communication. Right, the first attitude or inner quality to have is to know yourself and to be the change. Be the change that you want to see in the world. I'm sure you've heard this before. It comes from Gandhi. As you're well aware, Gandhi is the one who could use non-violent communication to put an end to the biggest empire that was ever on this planet. On the other hand, it was not possible to prevent a war between India and Pakistan. So non-violent communication has its limits, but it can still do amazing wonders, and that's what you can learn here. So what are the problems that non-violent assertive communication can solve in terms of knowing yourself? Well, the problems are low self-control, poor self-knowledge, too big an ego, or a lack of self-confidence. And what are the solutions offered by assertive non-violent communication? Well, you learn to know your strengths and weaknesses. You learn to be mindful, and you learn to be assertive and non-violent, which leads us to the second skill to learn, which is that of becoming assertive. Let's start by saying what assertiveness is not. It is not an aggressive style of communication, nor a passive one, nor a manipulative one, nor a passive-aggressive one. Therefore, what is it? What are its features, so to say? Well, to be assertive, you need to display an open attitude, to say what you mean what you say, and don't be mean when you say it. You also need to be proactive and to speak clearly and fluently. Yes, this does matter to sound and come across as assertive and confident. You also need to mind your appearance, your tone, your eye contact, and your body language. The next skill number 3, is to come prepared to a dialogue. That could be a tricky one. The problem with not being prepared is that you need to know where your communication partners really stand, and you will need to adapt to them. You might, if you're not prepared, start the communication act on the wrong foot. So what can you do? You can set your objective. You can learn to tune in with your audience, with your counterpart. You can anticipate questions and pitfalls, and you can and should time the meeting right. Also, things to do are to mind other people's usual way of thinking and way of reacting. Learn to speak their language, at least at first. Prepare constructive statements. Remind the people of the background story that led you to this situation. Skill number 4, that of asking smart questions. What happens if you don't ask questions? Well, you navigate in the dark. There is miscommunication. There are possible flaring conflicts. Some people might draw out of the conversation. Or if you ask too many questions, you don't ask the right ones, you will come across as intrusive. So what would you learn in terms of asking smart questions? Well, you'd learn to find the relevant questions, to know the point of no return of your counterpart, Where would the counterpart just stop the relationship? Also know the person's highest values. You would learn to make things real and tangible for them. You would learn to use a spiral approach in your questioning. And you would learn to spot, the most important thing, to spot omissions and distortions. And you would also learn to state why you ask questions so that people understand why you ask all these questions. Skill number 5, probably the most important one, which you should apply in all communication cases and basically in your life, in all of your interactions. That is, observe without evaluating. Otherwise, you're stuck in assumptions, beliefs, and judgments, misinterpretations. And so, with this course that you can take, you would learn to go to what I call, or is called, the space beyond, the one where there's no more duality. You'd learn to listen with empathy, listen to yourself, to what others say, and to what they don't say. You'd learn to observe facts, taking one fact at a time. All right, so we've gone through the first 5 skills. We're halfway. Just hold on there. 5 more to go. Number 6, learn to identify and express feelings. Otherwise, the problem would be counterproductive attitudes, an excess of emotion, or repressed emotion, or simply too little emotion. What can you do for that? Well, you can feel which part of the body is affected. You can learn to develop an emotions vocabulary. You can learn to accept responsibility for your emotions and empower yourself. You also learn emotion management, and you learn to stay in emotional audit mode and perhaps even experience emotional liberation. Skill number 7. Identify and express needs. Otherwise, there could be a lack of recognition, dissatisfaction, miscommunication. And the solutions to that are to have key phrases to express your needs, to rephrase your counterpart's needs, and to suggest action. So now we can move on to skill number 8, which is to phrase requests. Otherwise, if you don't do that, there might be no action on the issue. There might be a confusion with demand, need, question. So what you can do is to make clear requests, to acknowledge the needs of the people and your own needs, to create a sense of freedom, and to offer a reflection. We're now coming to point number 9. Conclude and act. If there's no conclusion to the dialogue, there will be no follow-up, or there will be a wrong follow-up. So what can you do? You can restate who will do what, when, and how they'll do it. You can ask for a repetition, and you can even write down the decision that's been made. Which leads us to point number 10. Point number 10 is one to apply across the whole communication act. It is about feeling and showing empathy. Without that, the partnerships are failed, the projects are failed. And some bad-ish behaviors in terms of empathy are to advise or one-upping or educating, consoling, storytelling, interrogating, explaining, correcting. All of these should be avoided. And instead, you could find the place of the body where you feel compassion. You can rephrase the fact again. You can learn to put yourself in the other's shoes. You can find blocking points. You can word out feelings, needs, prompts, and requests, but do so with an open heart, open ears, and eyes, and why not, your sixth sense. Right, I told you there would be 10 practices. There's a bonus, that is number 11. That one has more to do with the limits of assertive nonviolent communication, and it's about dealing with special cases such as manipulation, giving feedback, project management, overuse of power, disbalance of power. With these special cases, the best way to go about them is to learn with yoga practices and mindfulness practices, learn to take your distance, learn not to be so affected by these problems, accept the limits of nonviolent communication, still find what it can do in those special difficult circumstances. There might still be something that helps, or certainly that helps you. And most importantly, you can learn to accept that still, with all the efforts you will have made, if there is a failure in the communication because of the problems I've just described, accept that you have just planted a little seed or two, and that this might flourish later on in the person's life. Well, how are you feeling right now? Probably a little overwhelmed by all this information. That's absolutely normal. Please tell us in the comments how you're feeling. It's very important. But what you've just heard is sort of the pith and marrow, so to say, the basic framework of a 3-day intensive practical training where you can learn new things about yourself, be in constant audit of your emotions, know how to listen with empathy, know what is the exact little phrase that will touch the other person. With this method, you can make yourself understood, and in turn, you can help others transform themselves, or at least review their positions. And this is to be done in complete freedom and respect of both parties. So, if you feel a call to embark on this journey toward non-violent assertive communication, you can contact us on ibeauvez, IBEAUVEZ @gmail.com. The address is also in the description. If you want to learn more by video, then keep watching this playlist. This channel also offers you mindfulness and yoga playlists where you can foster a self-confident, authentic relating and non-violent personality. But if you prefer to learn on your own, with or without personal coaching, you can get the course book with practical exercises. And the info for this is again in the description under the video. See you soon on this same channel. Bye bye.